Okay, in regards to COVID-19 emergency procedures and the administration of oaths via remote audio video communication, this deposition of Elizabeth Sewell is being conducted remotely via Zoom. Today's date is November 10th, 2021. The time is approximately 10 o'clock a.m. Ms. Sewell, in what city are you located?
Homestead, Florida.
Thank you. The witness is located in Homestead, Florida. My name is Sylvia Evans. I'm located in Miami, Florida. I'm administering the oath and reporting this deposition remotely. Ms. Sewell, I need to see your ID, please. A little bit closer to the, yeah. Okay, thank you. Would counsel please state your appearance for the record and express your stipulation that the deposition and oath may take place remotely?
Dr. James Eric McDonough, I'm the pro se plaintiff, and I agree to the stipulation.
Sam Zaskine, the voice of Rhoda Helfman for the defendant, City of Homestead, and the witness, and agree to this stipulation.
Thank you. Ms. Sewell, raise your right hand, please. Do you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, nothing but the truth, so help you God?
Yes.
Before we get started, in one of the depositions, it appeared that Ms. Sewell was turning around and speaking to someone else in the room. Due to concerns with this, Mr. Zaskine, I would respectfully request that you would share your video. This is a video deposition, and if we were in person, you would be present. So I would really appreciate it if you would do that.
There's no requirement that I turn on my video. If this is a video deposition, only the witness would be on camera, but I will certify that I am not in Ms. Sewell's office and not in the City of Homestead, in my own office. Ms. Sewell can turn her camera to show you her office if that works, but I will remain off camera.
Okay, I just want to make sure, one of our depositions, Ms. Sewell was speaking to someone else in the room that was not you. I want to make sure that doesn't happen again. Ms. Sewell, can you state your name and occupation for the record?
Elizabeth Sewell, City Clerk, City of Homestead.
Ms. Sewell, if you don't hear or understand my questions, please ask me to repeat it and I will be happy to. Please don't answer a question that you don't understand, and please allow me to finish my question before you answer. Ms. Sewell, do you understand what yes and no questions are?
Yes.
Do you understand that yes and no questions require a yes or no answer?
Objection to form.
Yes.
Many questions today will be yes or no questions, and you're more than free to qualify or explain your yes or no answers, but will you be able to give yes or no answers at the beginning of your questions?
Object to form. The witness can answer however she deems fit.
If you need to take a break at any time or use the bathroom, have a snack or drink, please let me know and we can pause the deposition. Do you understand what I've said so far?
Yes.
Okay. How long have you been employed by Homestead, Ms. Sewell?
Over 11 years.
Do you know what your start date was, or as close as possible?
May 10th, 2020. May 10th, 2017.
2017?
2010, sorry.
2010, okay. And your current title is city clerk?
Yes.
And when you began working for the Homestead, did you begin with this title?
Yes.
What are your general responsibilities as city clerk?
Elections, supervising elections, coordinating the agenda for the council meetings with the city manager's office, transcribing the minutes of those meetings, recording those meetings, public records requests, lien request searches, those are processed through my office, management of all of the city's records. Those are some of the main functions of my office.
Have your responsibilities changed over time since the city of Homestead?
No,
And have changed with response to public records requests?
I don't understand your question.
When you began in 2010, whatever you had to do with records requests, is that still the same to date?
Yes,
Okay. Have you had any positions in home other than city clerk?
Dr. McDonough, I don't know if it's happening to anyone else, but he's breaking up. I didn't get his full question.
yes, it's happening to me too.
Have you had any other positions in homes other than city clerk?
No,
What did you do before you worked for City of Homestead?
I worked for the town of Golden Beach.
And what was your position there?
City clerk,
And there,
you're breaking up, Mr. McDonough.
how long were you in Gold Beach?
I started in 2007.
2007. And did you work in government before Golden Beach?
Yes,
And where was that at?
Florida City,
Florida City. Were you a city clerk there as well?
yes.
Okay. In any of your previous government work before you came to the city of Homestead, had you worked with former city manager George Gretzis?
No,
Had you worked with any WSH attorneys?
the partner, yes.
Okay. Do you recall who those were?
Stephen Helfman.
Pardon?
Stephen Helfman,
Okay. You were the public records custodian for the city of Homestead. Is that correct?
yes,
Displayed in your office prominently is a document naming you as such and providing your email. Is this correct?
yes,
And that email is esewell@cityofhomestead.com.
yes.
And that email is published to notice where citizens can file public records requests electronically.
They can file public records request.
But the email that's displayed is the email that they can send their public records request to.
Yes,
Okay. How many years have you been responding to and working on Chapter 119 public records requests as part of your employment, current or previous?
I don't know. I would have to count it.
Would you say well more than a decade?
Yes,
Have you received training on Chapter 119?
yes.
Can you describe any of this training?
I did the state public records training for record management.
And do you know how many times you've received training for Chapter 119?
At least once.
At least once. Is the city's records custodian, you're the primary person responsible for public records requests?
Yes,
Due to your extensive training and many years of experience, would it be safe to say that you're kind of an expert on Chapter 119 or responding to the Chapter 119 request?
Check the form.
You can answer the question, Ms. Sewell. Would you like me to repeat it?
no,
Is no your
Yes.
answer or no, you don't want me to?
no is my answer. Yes, that's my answer. No,
Okay. Is there any part of Chapter 119 that you're not familiar with?
maybe.
And if you're not familiar with the chapter, or you don't understand what to do, and you get a public records request, what would be your course of action?
Check the form.
I process it the way we process every public record in the city of Homestead.
Could you describe that?
We receive the record request, we send it to where the record resides, the department. They provide the information and we provide it to the requester.
Okay, and if you were confused or didn't understand what part of your job you needed to do to respond to a request, how would you handle that?
The form.
I would consult with the city attorney.
Do you consult with the city attorney often about public records requests?
Only when it's necessary.
And have you often corresponded with the city attorney about my records request?
Because of your lawsuits, yes.
And before my lawsuits?
Not necessarily.
Is a copy of the Government in the Sunshine Manual kept in the clerk's office?
Yes.
Have you ever read this manual?
On occasion,
So you have used it for a resource
yes.
and you find it helpful?
Yes.
And it seems to be fairly self-explanatory?
Yes.
Can I ask if you recall when the last time you reviewed the Sunshine Manual or any section of it was?
I do not recall.
Has anyone told you how to answer questions today or answer my questions?
No.
Has anyone ever coached you to be untruthful about any public records request?
No.
Has anyone ever coached you on what to say regarding anything work related?
No.
Has anyone ever told you to handle my records requests differently than others?
No.
Have you ever been untruthful under oath?
No.
Have you ever witnessed anyone being coached on what to say under oath in the scope of your official position?
No.
Okay. I'm not sure if you're aware of this, Ms. Sewell, but we had a hearing a few weeks back based on a motion for protective order to try to limit the scope of this deposition. In that hearing, it was agreed that I would not ask questions about your family, but it was stated that I would be allowed to ask questions about the police report that you had filed on me. I would like to share my screen if I can, and I would like to show this police report that was filed. Give me just a second. I'm going to share my screen. Sylvia, you can call this Exhibit A.
Okay.
This is the police report. Can you see this, Ms. Sewell?
Yes.
Okay, I'll scroll down just a little bit. Could you read this for us?
Before she reads, I'm just going to note my objection. This doesn't appear to be the complete copy of the report. It looks like it's just the page with the narrative.
It's the narrative page, correct? Could you read this for us, Ms. Sewell?
Ms. J. McDonough has gone to the city clerk's office on multiple occasions since the initial incident.
I'm sorry, I don't mean to stop you. There's 2 paragraphs above that. Could you start at the beginning?
You didn't say that, okay. I was dispatched to 100 Civic Court in reference to making contact with the reporting party, East Sewell, regarding documenting on ongoing issue. I made contact with East Sewell, who advised me that she has become increasingly fearful of the 2 listed individuals. Listed involves others, J. McDonough and M. Oki, since an encounter that occurred on 7/19/2016 at the city clerk's office. On this date, J. McDonough and M. Oki came into the city clerk's office. J. McDonough was disputing charges for a record request while M. Oki was recording the incident. East Sewell stated that J. McDonough was very confrontational with her and was verbally aggressive when she would attempt to give an explanation. East Sewell recognized Mr. Oki from previous council meetings where he would get visibly irate when told he could not bring a knife into the council chambers. And due to that, she grew more fearful, knowing that he would possibly have a knife on him at that moment. The encounter ended without an incident on the date. Jay McDonough has gone to the city clerk's office on multiple occasions since the initial incident. Sewell advised me that one of those occasions, Jay McDonough brought his 2 young daughters into the office and was able to gain access to a secure hallway that leads to her office. Sewell felt as though he brought his children in to manipulate and distract his staff and could possibly cause her harm if she had been present. On today's date, Mr. Oki entered the clerk's office and was more aggressive at her, demanding video from the security system at City Hall. Mr. Oki got angry and told her he was going to make her understand.
Real quick, I'll just scroll up some more because the next rest of it is cut off just so you can see everything. Okay, you can continue.
Sewell told me that over the past few weeks, she has witnessed the 2 males escalating in aggressiveness at the city council meetings and is afraid for her own safety as well as the safety of her staff. Sewell stated that her office has no security and it is solely comprised of women. Sewell is afraid to walk out to her vehicle in the parking lot since both males know what she drives and is scared that they may follow her home and cause harm to her. For these reasons, she has requested to document the previous encounters. Sewell provided a written statement as well as emails from Mr. McDonough and Mr. Oki, which was submitted to records. A case card was issued.
Does that seem accurate to you?
Yes.
Is there anything that's inaccurate in that report narrative?
From my perception, no.
Okay. And one thing in there is you said that, let me find here. Sewell stated that Jay McDonough was very confrontational with her and was verbally aggressive when she would attempt to give an explanation. You agree with that statement?
Yes.
Do you know that that interaction was recorded?
You did not advise that you were recording them.
After this interaction, you sent me an email and you told me and you apologized for your behavior and said that you were taken aback because of my aggressive stance and that I was recording you.
I do not recall that.
We'll pull that up in a little bit. Anyway, if I was to show you the video, do you think you could point out where I was aggressive?
Objection to form. It's outside the scope of the deposition.
No, it's not, sir. I was told that I was able to ask questions about the police report. She made a statement in the police report. I'm asking her if we show the video of the incident, if she could point out where I was aggressive.
Right, you've been allowed to ask questions regarding the report itself. There's no, the scope ends there. There's no questioning about video of the incident that has nothing to do with the remaining public records request or the explanation you gave the judge as to why you wanted to ask about the report. So I'm noting my objection on the record.
Your objection is noted. Ms. Sewell, you can still answer the question.
I agree with the objection.
Ms. Sewell, whether you agree with an objection or not, if it's not an objection based on privilege, you have to answer the question. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and play the video for you. And if you could watch the video, if you could tell me, you could speak out during the video if you see any points where you think I was aggressive. Let me stop sharing this.
I'm going to object to the playing of the video. Again, this is outside the scope of what the court's allowed.
Her police report is about this incident. I want to show this incident. I don't believe that her statements have been accurate. So
this lawsuit is not about the incident report or
this
the
lawsuit
accuracy
about my
of
public
any
records request being unlawfully refused. Ms. Sewell has demonstrated animosity towards me, which could be motive for the unlawful refusal to comply with my public records request.
You haven't even asked about the public records.
We're going to get there.
Requests.
We're going to get there. I don't have to ask things in the order you want me to, sir.
No one is suggesting that you do, although it may have been helpful to avoid this whole
If you would stop
set
trying to
of
obstruct
questions.
my discovery, that would be the most helpful, sir.
Not
Anyway,
obstructing your discovery. There's a court order that limits the scope of this deposition. You're exceeding it.
and I'm not exceeding it. It absolutely said I could ask questions about the police report. The police report is about an incident. This is about the incident of the police report. I'm going to play it. I note your objection. We're going to play it. If you want to leave, you're more than free to leave.
Is anyone able to hear the audio? I can't hear the video.
Can you hear it, Ms. Sewell?
No,
Sylvia, were you able to hear any of the?
No, not the words.
Okay. Let me see if there's another way I can do this. Advanced. Well, it doesn't look like I'm gonna be able to share the video with you being able to hear it. Well, you stand by your statement that I was verbally aggressive to you, Ms. Sewell?
yes,
Okay. How was I verbally aggressive?
you were verbally aggressive.
Can you explain, elaborate in any way?
No matter how I explained the cost and how it was arrived at, you were very aggressive.
What does very aggressive mean?
You were aggressive.
How was I aggressive, Ms. Sewell? Was I yelling at you? Did I cuss at you? Did I scream at you? Did I insult you?
I believe you were insulting, yes.
I insulted you. How did I insult you, Ms. Sewell? You said you believe I insulted you. Could you explain how I insulted you?
I can't recall everything you said. It's been a while.
You were in great fear for your life and you had to file a police report about this incident. So I would assume that you would remember some details about what I did that was aggressive or insulted you.
Check the form.
You can answer.
I've answered you.
What did I do that insulted you, Miss Sewell?
It's what you said. But I don't recall everything you said. It's been a while.
But if I insulted you to the point that you were in fear for your life and you had to file a police report, wouldn't you expect that you would remember something I had said to insult you?
Check the form.
One of the other incidences that occurred was Mr. Oki showed up with a knife at my staff in the office. That's one of the reasons that report was filed. It was not just for my safety, it was also the safety of my staff.
Mr. Oki showed up with a knife. Could you explain that?
Yeah, he showed up with a knife in the lobby area of my office.
Did he pull out the knife?
He pulled it out and showed it to the staff, yes, and said it was legal to bring it into a government building, yes.
Did he threaten anyone with the knife?
I felt that was threat enough to pull out a knife at anyone.
If he had pulled out a knife in your office, why does the police report not note that?
That did occur.
I mean, if you pulled out a knife in your office and you were fear for your life and the safety of your staff, you would think that would be something that would be noted in the police report, correct?
Check the form.
It was one of the reasons why the police report was filed.
Are there cameras in your office, Ms. Sewell?
No,
So you have no documentation other than your testimony here that Mr. Oki pulled out a knife.
the staff at the time witnessed it, but they're not here anymore.
Could you tell me who those staff members were?
Letty Andiago and Kalia Evelyn and Patty Sullivan. They're no longer employed with the city of Homestead.
Okay. And do you know when roughly Mr. Oki had come to your office and displayed the knife?
I can't recall the exact time. It's been a while. All of this occurred a while ago.
Was this after I came to your office and questioned the billing invoice?
I think it may have been before, but I'm not sure. I can't recall.
Well, you're saying that this incident is what prompted you to file the police report. If that happened even before I questioned you,
That's not what I said. I said one of the incidences that prompted me to file the report. Don't change my words. I did not say it. I said it was one of the incidences. Your behaviors became more aggressive.
how did my behavior become more aggressive?
In my opinion, that's what it was.
You can't offer anything more than just vague aggressive. Was I yelling, screaming, cussing, threatening people? Was I acting wild and crazy, throwing my hands around?
You're always yelling.
Objection to form.
I'm always yelling,
You're always yelling, yes.
always.
From my experience with you, sir, yes. When it's something that you don't like, yes.
So you say that I've repeatedly have yelled at you?
Mm-hmm. Yes,
In the incident where I questioned the billing, did I yell at you on that day?
I can't recall.
Let's go back to the police report. Share this. But you say I was very confrontational with you and verbally aggressive. Other than my verbal aggressive, how was I confrontational?
Mr. McDonough, I can't recall all of this stuff. It's been a very long time.
But you stand by the fact that all of these statements are accurate,
Yes,
but you don't recall.
when I made those statements, they were accurate at that time, yes.
And if we were to show a video and it showed that I was not at all verbally aggressive, would you retract that statement?
Check the form.
I don't know if you've edited the video. I don't know if you've changed it in any way.
Are you accusing me of misconduct, Ms. Sewell?
I'm not accusing
Objection
you.
to form. That's not what she said.
Do you have any reason to suspect that I would manipulate a video to show something that wasn't true?
I don't know.
You made the statement, Ms. Sewell.
I don't know.
Do you often make statements that you cannot support?
Objection to form.
You can answer.
I don't know what you will do, Mr. McDonough.
You don't know what I would do.
No,
Do you know what anybody would do?
no. Other than myself, no.
Okay. What reason do you have to believe that I would try to cause you harm, Ms. Sewell?
I don't know.
Do you know roughly what time that Letty, Kalia, and Patty had left employment with the city of Homestead?
No, I don't recall. They left at different times, if that's what you're insinuating.
Was it before the 2016 date when I came to question the invoice?
I don't recall.
Okay. Can you explain why you waited a month and a half after this incident before you filed the police report?
I don't recall.
You have no explanation for why you waited a month and a half.
I don't recall what was the reason.
What was the reason? Did anybody suggest you file this police report?
I don't recall.
Did you talk to anybody about this before you filed the police report?
Don't recall.
How did you file the police report or contact the police department?
I guess we called them. I don't recall. It's been a while. I don't sit around thinking about this all the time.
Okay. It says E. Sewell recognized M. Oki from previous council meetings where he would get visibly irate when told he could not bring a knife into council chambers.
Yes,
Could you elaborate on this?
it's what it is. It's stated right there. That's what it is.
Where was he at when he was visibly irate? Was he speaking at the podium? Was he entering the building?
Don't recall where he was.
But you said he was visibly irate. Was this speaking during a council meeting?
I don't recall.
Okay. Are you aware that Mr. Oki had brought up the issue about not being able to bring a pocket knife, which is not a weapon, into City Hall in 2014?
You're breaking up.
Yeah, I didn't get that question. Sylvia, did you get it?
I got parts of it.
Are you aware that when Mr. Oki was speaking to council about not being able to bring a pocket knife as it is not a weapon, That was in 2014.
Objection to form, we're well outside the scope of what's
I
allowable
don't
for this
recall.
deposition at this point.
No, we're not.
You're talking about Mr. Oki speaking at a council meeting in 2014. How is that relevant to
well,
or covered by the scope of what the judge has allowed? If we're going to keep going down this path, we'll stop this depo. You can stick to the scope of the deposition that the court's allowed in the order,
The court has
or we'll
allowed
stop it. We're not
question-
going to go down a
the
rabbit
court.
hole to
This
Mr.
court
Oki
has
speaking
allowed
at
me
council
to ask
meeting.
questions about this report, sir. It's in the order.
Right, but you're not asking questions about the report now. You just asked
I
about
am
a question
asking
about
questions
was
about the
she
report.
aware?
She's made statements about the report. I'm trying to ask her to verify it because, to be honest, this report seems a little unreasonable.
Dr. McDonough, you may find the report unreasonable, but it's not the subject matter of this litigation. You represented to the court that there was a reason why you
There is a
wanted to
reason.
speak to it. You're not
No, I have
covering
not,
it.
sir. There is a
You're-
reason. The reason is her animosity towards me, sir.
No,
And
it
that being a
sounds like-
motive for her unlawfully refusing to comply with my public records request. I have not gone past that.
Dr.
You're
McDonough,
well-
I have
you're well
no
beyond that,
animosity
Dr.
towards
McDonough.
you.
You have no animosity towards me.
No animosity towards you. And truth be told,
Elizabeth, don't engage with Dr. Dunn. There's no
Stop
question.
coaching my
pending.
witness, please. You can
There's not a
continue, Ms.
question.
Sewell.
There's not a question pending. She's not going to respond. She was responding to a comment that you made to me. There's not a question pending. She's not giving you an answer. I'm not coaching the witness. I'm raising an
okay,
objection.
okay.
You've gone beyond the scope of talking about the report and the
Okay,
subjects.
Sewell, Ms. Sewell.
Three public records requests that are remaining in this lawsuit.
Your objection's noted. You can be quiet and let me finish my deposition now. Your objection's noted. We understand. You got it on the record. Ms. Sewell, other than Matt Oki speaking in 2014 at the council about the pocket knife, do you recall any other incident of him
Interesting
speaking about a pocket knife?
process, but I
I don't recall.
You don't recall. Ms. Sewell, do you recall when I used to often come in to the clerk's office and bring my daughters to file with me when I filed public records request? And that Letty, Kalia, and Patty would come from behind the window and would have long conversations with me and my children and would give them candy from their candy bowl?
Vaguely.
Vaguely. Many of these times when this happened, you were coming in or going out. Did any of that seem to be aggressive?
I can't recall.
If I was aggressive with Letty, Kalia, or Patty, do you think they would have continued to come out and have conversations with me and my daughter and give my daughters candy?
Objection to form, and again, objection well outside the scope of what's been allowed for this deposition.
It says Jay McDonough has gone to the city clerk's office on multiple occasions since the initial incident. E. Sewell advised me that on one of these occasions, Jay McDonough brought his two young daughters into the office and was able to gain access to a secured hallway that leads to her office. E. Sewell felt as though he brought his children in to manipulate and distract her staff and could possibly have caused her harm if she had been present. What's your reason to believe that I brought my daughters in to distract your staff to harm you?
That's how I felt. That's what's documented. That's how I felt.
So you believe I would bring my daughters in to watch me harm a woman?
That's how I felt at the time, Mr. McDonough.
What made you feel that way, Ms. Sewell?
Your behavior,
What about my behavior, Ms. Sewell?
aggressive behavior.
My aggressive behavior. Can you explain any of this aggressive behavior?
Those are my opinions, Dr. McDonough.
Do you have any facts that you could state that support your opinions?
Your insulting manner, your vocal high, your insulting manner, and your yelling.
Did I yell in your office, Ms. Sewell?
From what I recall, there have been occasions when you're told that you didn't like something, yes.
And what about my manner has been insulting, Ms. Sewell?
Some of the comments you've made,
Could you list any of those comments?
one that I recall where you told me, I like a woman that knows the law. I found that to be insulting.
What's insulting about that?
I took issue with it, Mr. McDonough.
I don't mean to be insulting. Could you help me understand why that's insulting or what you took issue with?
Objection to form. She and
You
asked and
used
answered.
to
She
ask it.
explained to you her reasoning and her thought process. What was that audio?
I have no idea. Is there somebody else with you, Mr. Zeskine?
No.
No, I mistakenly pressed the foot pedal for the minutes that I was working on prior to the deposition. I'm sorry.
Okay. Well, you could always just say that so your counsel doesn't seem to imply that I'm doing something wrong.
I didn't imply anything. All I asked was what the audio was, Dr. McDonough.
And she should have answered you.
Don't, Dr. McDonough. See, right now you're engaging with the witness. She did nothing wrong. I asked the question and she responded. I was just trying to clear up for the record, since this is being recorded, what the audio was.
The report also says E. Sewell told me that over the past few months, she has witnessed the two males escalating in aggressiveness at council meetings and is afraid for her own safety as well as the safety of her staff. Could you explain what the escalating aggressiveness at the council meetings is meant to imply?
The way you spoke at the meetings, your tone, your aggressive behavior, manner. I mean, that's on the record.
So citizens exercising their right to petition government for redress of grievances is aggressive?
Object to form.
No, just the manner they do it in.
Is there any manner that a citizen is required to act in when he's petitioning for redress of grievances?
That was my opinion, Dr. McDonough.
And so my speech to city council made you fear that I would harm you. Could you explain why that's the case?
It's stated in the report.
It's stated in the report that you witnessed my escalating aggressiveness at council meetings. I'm trying to understand how, I disagree that I was aggressive at council meetings, but I'm trying to understand how in your perception, me being aggressive to city council puts you in fear for harm for your life.
You disagree and I agree.
Okay, could you state how me petitioning for redress of grievances before city council places you in fear for your life, Ms. Sewell?
Objection to form.
You can answer.
Actually, I think you actually served me a lawsuit at one of the council meetings
Does
in front of all of my peers, in front of the public and everybody else.
I served you?
Well, Mr. Oki did on your behalf. You both were there at the meeting when it was done, and you both were laughing at the meeting when it was done, from what I recall.
Interesting, the facts you recall and the facts you don't recall, Ms. Sewell. So
There you go, laughing again.
I'm laughing because I'm trying not to cry at the ridiculousness of this, Ms. Sewell. I'm still, can you explain how me speaking to council makes you fear for your life?
Objection asked and answered.
I've already answered.
The police report says E. Sewell is afraid to walk out to her vehicle in the parking lot since both males know what she drives and is scared they may follow her home and cause harm to her. Ms. Sewell, what evidence do you have that leads you to the belief that I know what your vehicle is?
It's parked in the parking lot where it says city clerk. That's the evidence. And I'm sure you've paid attention.
Actually, I haven't. That's a mighty nice assumption on you to make there before you file a police report trying to have me arrested, Ms. Sewell.
Nobody was trying to have you arrested.
Objection
It
to
was
form.
just being documented.
So you didn't expect for me, you didn't want for me to be arrested when you filed a police report?
It was filed so that the incidences would be documented in the event this escalated. No, nobody was expecting you to be arrested or Mr. Oki to be arrested. That's not the reason why this was filed.
So you have no knowledge that I know what car you drive. Is that correct?
Objection to form.
I stated what I stated in the report, and that's what I believe. That's what I stated.
That's very nice, Ms. Sewell. I appreciate you offering what your beliefs are. Do you have any evidence that I knew what vehicle you drove, aside from your assumptions?
Asked and answered.
No, it hasn't been answered.
That's my answer, Mr. McDonough.
What is your answer?
That you know where it's parked because there's a sign that says whose that parking space belongs to.
Do you have any evidence that I had looked at that or that I was aware of that or that I had known that?
I answered you. That's what I believe. That's what I
It's
know.
it's a new question, Ms. Sewell. Do you have any evidence or knowledge that I knew that? It's a yes or no question.
I assumed yes.
I don't want an assumption, Ms. Sewell. I don't want an assumption. I don't want your belief.
Yes, yes.
Yes, you have evidence. What is that evidence that you have, Ms. Sewell?
I said yes, I assumed that you knew.
And my question was, do you have any evidence that I knew?
Objection asked and
That is
answered.
my answer, Mr. McDonough. That is my answer.
Is it fair to say you had no evidence that I knew, other than your assumptions?
I don't know.
You don't know if you have evidence or not?
That's my answer, Mr. McDonough.
Your answer is you don't know if you have evidence.
My answer is I assumed you know because there was a sign that says where I park. That's
So
my
the only,
answer.
so
That's
the
my
only evidence
final
you-
answer.
So you have no evidence. All you have is an assumption. Is that correct?
Objection asked and answered.
No, it's a new question.
Not, it's the same question over and over again.
No,
She's
she's
giving
not
you her
answering the
answer.
question. She's not answering the question.
I've answered it.
Other than your assumption, is there any evidence that you possess that I knew this?
Objection asked and answered.
No, it has not been asked and answered.
Well, you're not going to get an answer. That's the answer.
You're refusing to answer.
I answered you. You don't like my answer, but that's my answer.
There's several questions here, Ms. Sewell. They're different questions. I'll try to walk you through the nuance. My first question was, what is your evidence? And you based it on assumptions. I'm now asking, other than assumptions, do you have any evidence other than your assumptions that I knew what vehicle you drove?
That's my answer.
Do you have any evidence other than your assumption that I knew what vehicle you drove? It's a yes or no question, Ms. Sewell.
Maybe.
Maybe. Could you describe what this evidence would be that you maybe have? Ms. Sewell, can you describe what evidence you maybe have? Can you hear me, Ms. Sewell, or am I breaking up?
I'm here, I hear you, and I answered you.
You did not answer my last question. Ms. Sewell, can you describe this evidence that you state you maybe have? Sylvia, will you note that the witness is refusing to answer the question? Ms. Sewell, are you aware that the city of Homestead spent roughly $500,000 fighting me from getting public records requests?
No, I'm
Objection
not
to
aware.
form.
You weren't aware of that?
No,
Ms. Sewell, have you ever unlawfully refused to act on one of my public records requests?
I can't recall.
Do you recall the last case we had where we had a hearing on July 27th and you told the judge that you dropped the ball? Do you recall that?
Objection to form, and that's outside the scope of the issues in this case. The order is limited to the 3 public records requests that are remaining in this litigation and not the public records
going
request.
towards
It's the
this
subject of another litigation.
Your refusal to comply with my records request. So
What?
Ms. Sewell, have you
No,
ever unlawfully refused to comply
The
with my
requests, no, the
request?
requests that are the subject of other litigation are not the subject of this deposition. All right, the judge has limited the scope to requests 4-1, 5, and 6 as they're defined in your 4th amended complaint. We're not going to be discussing requests that are the subject of other litigation.
Ms. Sewell, have you ever unlawfully refused to comply with one of my records requests?
I explained why that situation occurred. I was very busy with the elections, very busy with filling a vacancy on the council. There were mitigating circumstances that occurred when that happened. Okay?
And it was found that your refusal was unlawful. Is that correct?
I don't
Same
know. what it
objection.
was from.
Outside the scope of this deposition.
Ms. Sewell, how many records requests do you estimate that you have unlawfully acted on or delayed or refused to act on or withheld records or redacted records?
I
Objection to
cannot
form.
recall. I don't know of any other than the one situation.
That one situation was at least 50 that you admitted, correct? You said there was
Objection to form. All right,
records
Dr.
request and
McDonough,
that you-
listen, Dr. McDonough, there was an order entered on October 10th, 2021 by the judge in this case. It limits the scope of this deposition to questions concerning the remaining claims for declaratory relief relating to requests 4-1, 5, and 6 as defined in the 4th amended complaint. All right. Other than that, we're not discussing other public records requests. It's not part of what the court has allowed. This case has been pending for years. There's 3 requests
That's
remaining.
because of your misconduct. That's
There's
because
three-
of you lying
there's
on the
three-
record. That's because
there
you
are-
find false documents, sir. That's
There are
because you're a
three-
liar with no honor or integrity, sir.
There are
Do not
3
blame
requests remaining.
do not blame your refusal to cooperate lawfully on me. Do
There are
not
3
blame your
requests remaining.
shenanigans creating delays on me.
There are 3 requests remaining, and the questions must be limited to those requests, or you're going outside the scope of what's been allowed by the judge. and we'll move on, and you'll go back to the judge and explain why you need to ask questions that are outside the scope, but limit your questions to the public records request that is subject to this litigation. And Sylvia, if you could just note in the record that exchange, that Dr. McDonough was not speaking to me, that he was in fact yelling at me.
Ms. Sewell, earlier, and Sylvia, let's also note for the record that I did yell at Zeskine, but I pointed out the fact that he knowingly filed false documents in the court. Ms. Sewell, you said earlier in this deposition that you did not think I was a mean person. Is that correct?
I can't recall.
You can't recall just a few minutes ago saying that you didn't think I was a mean person?
I can't recall.
Okay. And the first time I took your deposition, I stated to you that I was not a mean person, and you stated that, yes, I was. Do you
Objection to
recall
form,
that?
again, outside that, we're not talking about
I don't
testimony and other
recall.
depositions.
This is
That's nothing to do with
public
what's been
record?
allowed.
This has to do with her animosity towards me.
Dr. McDonough, there's an order.
This has to do with her animosity towards me and her motive for not lawfully complying with my public records request, sir.
Dr. McDonough, I read to you the scope of the deposition. That is outside the scope of the deposition. Her testimony given in other cases.
Do me pull up the
has been
hearing
given in other
from the,
cases.
do me pull up the hearing transcript where the judge said I could ask about things related to me, including
No,
the
she
report?
said that you could ask about the incident investigation report because that was the reason you gave, was you thought
Because
it
the reason I
exhibited
gave was due
animosity.
to your client's
been allowed to
animosity towards me and her motive to not lawfully comply with my records request.
That's the
Her
reason you
animo-
gave to
her
ask about the
mean
report.
person is absolutely related to her animosity towards me.
Dr. McDonough, the order is very clear. It does not state anything related to that. That was the reasoning you gave for wanting to ask about the investigation. It's an investigation report. It does not give you free reign to ask about anything that you think reflects or reveals or demonstrates animosity towards you. It is that report, which you've covered now, and then the 3 remaining requests in this lawsuit. You may ask questions about those 3 remaining requests, but if you're going to keep talking about things that have been testified to in other cases and requests that are the subject of other cases, we'll stop the deposition and you can go back to the judge and explain why you think you're entitled to discovery regarding those other matters, which, by the way, you've already covered in those other depositions. If you want to talk about request 4-1, request 5, and request 6, that's what the court's allowed. That's what we can cover today.
We're going to get there. Miss Sylvia, can you know for the record that the witness is refusing to answer questions about her statements of me being a mean person and refusing to answer questions about her animosity towards me?
I said, I do not recall. I answered you. If I don't recall, I don't recall.
Do you think I'm a mean person?
No.
Well, you said that before under oath. So now we have you changing your testimony under oath. How can we trust you, Miss Sewell? How does your testimony have any credibility?
Oh, Jesus. help me.
Dr. McDonough, are you going to get to
Ask me
the
a
requests
question
that
I
are subject to
answered.
this litigation or not?
Could you please be quiet for a minute? And could you repeat what you said, Miss Sewell? I didn't hear you.
There's no question pending.
She keeps trying to say something. You keep talking over her. Could you stop?
There's not a question.
Could you
There's
stop
not.
being rude and
There's
interrupting her and let
not
her
a.
speak?
There is no question pending. So the witness doesn't need to say
Here's your
anything.
question. Miss Sewell, what did you just say?
There's no question pending.
My
I didn't
question is,
say
what did you just
anything.
say, Miss Sewell?
I didn't say anything.
You didn't say anything.
No.
Your testimony is you didn't make a comment just a second ago.
You asked me a question, if you were a mean person, and I said no. And then you started badgering me.
I didn't
This is
badger
the
you.
aggressiveness I talk about. This
I
is
didn't
some of
badger
the
you, Ms.
business
Sewell.
I
I'm pointing
speak
out the
about.
fact that your testimony is inconsistent. You understand that you're under oath and that knowingly lying under oath is a felony crime, correct?
You asked me a question, if you're a mean person, and I said no. What more do you want?
Well, before you stated that I was a mean person, and now you're saying that I'm not a mean person. Is there
You-
something that
you just
changed to
said-
change your
You just
opinion?
said earlier that I said you were not a mean person. Then you asked me the question again, and I said no.
No.
I'm getting very confused here.
I'm sorry. Let me slow down. Today, you have stated repeatedly that I'm not a mean person. In April, you stated that I was a mean person.
I don't recall.
Has anything changed between now and April that would change your opinion of me being a mean person?
I don't recall what I said in April. That's
you like me
what
to show
you're
it to you?
saying I said.
Would you like me to show it to you, Ms. Sewell? Would you like to see the transcript from April? And what was
Dr.
said?
McDonough, that testimony was given in another case. It is not relevant here.
It's relevant here because her testimony has changed, and I'm trying to show the witness has no credibility.
You're in a deposition right now, Dr. McDonough, all right?
Yeah, I know.
The scope of which
Client's credibility.
The scope of which is limited, again, to request 4-1, 5, and 6 as defined in the Fourth Amendment complaint. You have yet to ask a single question about any of those, and we've been going for an hour.
I'm going to get to that, sir.
If you continue to go outside the scope of what's allowed, we will stop the deposition.
Ms. Sewell, real quick, I just want to show you the transcript, just so you know. Line 12, question. Ms. Sewell, take a breath. I'm not that mean of a guy. Your response, yes, you are.
Maybe you were being mean that day.
Okay, I was being mean that day. Okay. Let's look at some of the requests that Mr. Zeskind so wants to see. This is what is titled is request 4.1 in this lawsuit. Do you see the request, Ms. Sewell?
Yeah, I'm looking at it.
Okay. At the top, it has two stamps, one received in city clerk's office and one stamp received in chief's office. Do you know why this request would be sent to the chief's office?
If it's public records that reside in the chief's office, in the police department, then it would have been sent to the police department.
Are records kept in the chief's office?
I don't know.
Okay. So your whole statement just now was an assumption, not based on actual personal knowledge.
Objection form.
Records request a process. You asked me the process earlier in this deposition. The process is the record request is sent to where the record resides. Whichever department has the record, that's where it goes. Now, whatever the department does, I have no knowledge of. I do
Okay.
not know.
You could have said that earlier.
I did say that earlier.
No, you didn't. Ms.
Objection.
Sewell,
She did.
could you read this request?
I can't really see all of it, but I copies of all documents and recording for arrests taken place on 7/10/2014 at 19:36 hours by Officer Magrido. This includes dash cam footage, radio records, dispatch records, A form. I have no idea what this other stuff is. Transport documentation, documents, notes, phone, etc., to include every public record related to this arrest.
Thank you. I believe it was instant report. It was a little hard to read.
I don't know what that was. I didn't see it, so I couldn't read it.
So you agree that this was received in the clerk's office on September 24th, 2014?
That's the stamp on it.
And you have no reason to believe that I would have stamped this or I would have manipulated this.
No,
Would that
I
be
don't
correct?
think you did. No.
Okay. And under format that requested, that has electronic copy if available, correct? That's how I requested the records?
That's just checked off, yes.
Okay. And this is something that the requester fills out, correct? Not the office?
Well, sometimes we fill them out for the requester, but
Okay.
I don't know who filled this out.
All right. Let me stop sharing and let's go over to this invoice. Let me bring this up. Let's go to the top. You can see the invoice. And it shows 17.25 hours of police staff time. And it shows 15 copies and it shows 2 CDs. And it says invoice for public records request dated 9/24/14. So we would agree this is produced by your office and they agree that 9/24/14 is the date my request was filed. Is that correct?
The invoice could be produced by my office. The information to create the invoice was produced by the police department.
Okay. You have no reason to believe that the date of 9/24/14 is incorrect, do you?
No,
Okay. And you agree that I'm right? Would you agree that that is your belief that that would be the correct date? Or do you believe that's the correct date?
that's the date stamped on the public record request.
Exactly. Exactly. I would like to now show another invoice that was very related to this. After I received this invoice, I was filing a records request for someone else. And then they filed the records request themselves. That person was Maria Salado. Here is the invoice that she received. Do you see this?
Yes,
Okay. And it shows 20 minutes of police staff time and it shows 1 CD and it has a note that's highlighted. Video was redacted for prior public records requests. Therefore, there are no charges for redaction. Do you see that, Ms. Sewell?
I see that.
So with this note that says there was no charges for redaction, would you believe the difference between this invoice and the earlier invoice I showed you was the time for the redaction?
I don't know.
Would that be reasonable for me to believe?
Objection to form.
I don't know.
Okay. Can you see, can you see the first invoice now? It has 441 at the bottom.
Yes, I see that.
Okay. And it's 17.25 hours. And going to the forward invoice, it's 20 minutes, which would be, I guess, 0.33 hours. So there's roughly 17 hours difference here. Is there anything that you think would make a difference other than the redaction time?
I don't know. I
You
did
don't
not,
know.
this information didn't come from my office. It came from the police department.
Okay. And redactions aside, do you have any idea on how long it should take probably? And I know you don't work on this, but could you give like a top line estimate of how many hours you think it should take to pull a police report?
Objection
No.
to form.
Do you think it would take 5 or 10 hours to pull
I
a police
don't
report?
know. I don't know.
The city has its records electronically. Is that correct?
Objection
I
to form.
don't know.
You don't know if the city has an electronic records keeping system?
I don't know how the police department keeps their records. I don't know.
Okay. We'll go back to the request real quick. And the format requested is electronic copy if available. Is that correct?
That's what's written on there, yes.
Is paper copy checked on there?
No,
Is CD checked on there?
no,
Is other checked on there?
no.
Can I ask why you keep turning away from the computer, Ms. Sewell?
My phone keeps ringing.
Okay.
That's the reason why. There is the phone.
I got you. Could you put that to the side and silence that or something so we can stay focused on the task at hand here?
I'm focused on the task at hand. And yes, I
Okay.
just silenced it.
Okay, thank you. I appreciate that. So Ms. Sewell, this is the invoice that I got. And it has 15, quantity of 15 copies at 15 cents a piece for a total of $225. But I asked for electronic records, correct?
That's what you checked off on the request, yes.
Is there a reason I'd be charged for paper copies of electronic records?
I do not know. That came from the police department, Mr. McDonough.
Okay. And it is the city's policy to waive the first 30 minutes of time in responding to a public records request. Is that correct?
Yes,
Was the first 30 minutes in this invoice waived?
I don't know.
Can you look at the invoice and tell me if it was?
I don't know. This was sent to us from the police department. We provided to you what was provided to us.
There's no record of the first 30 minutes being waived.
I
that
don't
correct?
know. I don't know.
Well, you can look at the invoice. Is there any record, anything in the invoice that would tell you the first 30 minutes was waived?
I don't know, Mr. McDonough.
You don't know. Okay. When the city responded, they redacted video based on Florida statute 119.071 4D. Let me see if I can bring that up for you. This is the exemption that was used to justify redaction of video. Could you read the highlighted section there, Ms. Sewell?
The home addresses, telephone numbers, dates of birth, photographs of active or former sworn law officers, of enforcement personnel, or of active or former civilian personnel employed by a law enforcement agency.
Does anything in there mention video?
I don't see it.
Okay. Are you aware that the Public Records Act is to be liberally construed in favor of open government, and exemptions from disclosure are to be narrowly construed to their limit to their stated purpose?
Objection to form, it's a legal conclusion. Witness is not here to testify about legal conclusion. She's a fact witness.
Is the public records custodian for the city of Homestead and being the highest person responsible for public records requests, you understand how exemptions work. Is that correct, Ms. Sewell?
Yes,
Objection to form.
Are you allowed to redact something on an exemption that does not support that redaction?
we did not redact the record in the clerk's office.
I'm not asking what you did or what your people did. I'm asking that you would agree that an exemption is to be narrowly construed, correct?
Objection to form calls for a legal conclusion.
I'm a fact witness, and the fact is it was not done in the clerk's office.
Okay. If there was a video that was in your possession of your office and it was requested, would you redact police officers from that video?
If there's an exemption, yes.
And if the exemption only says photograph, but does not say video, would you exempt a video or would you redact a video?
Well, we're not in the habit of redacting police department records. Those are done by the police department.
Okay. But if there was a video that was in possession of your office and it was requested, would you redact the video based on an exemption that only states photograph?
Objective forms based purely on speculation. and calls for legal conclusion. The witness is not going to testify about that.
Are you aware that on December 20th, 2018, I was provided an unredacted copy of this video?
No,
Do you know why I would have been given an unredacted copy of the video?
no,
Do you know why it would have taken more than 4 years for my request before I was given a copy of the video?
no,
Can you explain why the first 30 minutes of time was not waived?
I don't know.
And can you explain why I was charged for paper copies of electronic records?
I don't know.
Okay. All right. I'm going to skip ahead to request 6 because it's more related to request 4. And let me see if I can share this here. They go
McDonough,
together.
are you going to mark any of those? You put up a bunch of requests and invoices. Are you going to mark any of those as exhibits?
Oh, I'm sorry. Yes, they should all be marked as exhibits sequentially from A. I will go through and get them all in there for you. I'm sorry. But for right now, we have my request 4.1. We have invoice 4.1. We have invoice 4.2. We have a copy of Florida statute 119.071. We have a copy of the, let's see here. The April 16th, 2021 deposition transcript that had also noted this case. And I think that's about, and we have the police narrative report. Okay. So let me go back and find request 5. Or I'm sorry, request 6. We're going to do 6 first because that is related to 4 with the same issues. Okay, here's my records request that I filed on August 28, 2016 for what is listed as request 6 in the lawsuit. And these are some questions I had asked as a media representative. And then you can see where I highlight the remaining official records request. And these are the records I requested. Primarily what I have highlighted here is video footage taken by the plainclothes officer who was recording this incident with his cell phone, and any other footage that was recorded by any of the dozens of HPD officers present or participating in my detainment on 8/24/2016. I'm now going to show the invoice. This is the invoice number 6. Can you see the invoice, Ms. Sewell?
I can see a portion of it.
Okay, I just want to scroll to the top so everybody can see the whole document. I'll scroll down into here. And in my request, I also asked for personnel files, but I was billed for those separately from, for some reason, the city decided to bill my request 2 separate ways and split it up. That's fine. We can see there's 4 hours of staff time here to respond to this records request. And you can see it was any and all information, including reports and video footage related to the arrest of James Eric McDonough on August 24, 2016. I'll scroll to the bottom so you can see this whole thing, Ms. Sewell. In this request, is the first 30 minutes of time waived?
I don't know. Again, this is prepared by the police department and sent to us to send to you.
Is there any way for you to find out if the first 30 minutes have been waived?
I don't know. This is after the fact. I don't know.
You don't know. Is it a possibility that I've been charged for records requests without waiving the first 30 minutes of time?
I don't know.
Is it a possibility? If you don't know, then it's probably a possibility. Would that be correct?
I
Check the
don't
form.
know. I've answered you. I don't know.
And this request was filed on August 24th, 2016. And the same is in request 4. The city provided me a copy of the unredacted video on December 20th, 2018. Do you know why they would provide an unredacted video more than 2 years after my request was filed?
I don't know.
Okay. Do you know who would know the answer to this?
No, I don't.
Would Mr. Zeskine possibly know the answer to this?
I don't know. I don't think so.
Okay. Stop sharing this. And we'll move over to records request 5 now. You can see the records request, Ms. Sewell?
A portion, the top portion of it, yes.
Top portion of it. And that's the whole thing. Go back. This was filed on March 5th, 2015. Do you agree with that?
That's the date it's stamped on the record request, yes, by the clerk's office.
Okay. And let's scroll down here. I don't know why this blue keeps coming up. Sorry about that. Could you read the request, Ms. Sewell?
It's impossible almost. Copies of documents and records related to HPD's Facebook page, who controls, monitors, deletes, etc. Rules and regulations, guidelines established for updating and deleting content and controlling access to posts / I assume that's comments, likes, I'm not sure. Number 3, orders, whose orders or direction were my posts deleted and access denied or restricted? Number 4, what is the legal justification for such deletions and restrictions? Number 5, why have entire page, not just?
It's entire post, not just comments, been taken down.
Oh, okay. Why was the review section taken down? Number 6.
Is there anything in that request that you see that's asking for any Facebook post or comments?
I just read something about posting comments.
But is there anything that you see in there where I'm requesting comments on the Facebook page or posts to the Facebook page?
I could barely understand what this is.
Okay, I'll read. Let me read it for you. Request copies of documents and records related to HPD's Facebook page. 1, who controls, monitors, deletes, etc. 2, rules, regulations, guidelines established for updating, deleting content and controlling access to post, comment, like. 3, under whose orders or directions were my posts deleted and access denied or restricted? 4, what is the legal justification for such deletions and restrictions? 5, why have entire posts, not just comments, been taken down? 6, why was the review section taken down? If in this request, am I asking for any specific posts or comments on the city's Facebook page? Would you interpret the request that way?
Objection to form.
Well, the top of it says copies of documents and records related to HPD Facebook page. So yeah, I would assume that.
Copies and documents related to HPD's Facebook page and then numbered on what I'm asking for.
Yes, but we did not process this record request. It went to the police department.
It went
The
to
clerk's office did not process this request. It went to the police department.
Okay.
Okay.
I want to show you the invoice for this. This is invoice for request 5. And we can see there's quantity of 265 hours. Estimated staff time, 265 hours at 1947 per hour to review 53,000 HPD, 53,000 Facebook records for confidential exempt content and redact if necessary prior to release as a public record. When you read my request, would you interpret that request to be asking for 53,000 Facebook records?
As I said, we did not process this record request. It went to the police department. Whatever they sent to us, we provided to you, sir.
With your extensive knowledge and experience with public records requests, do you believe that it's reasonable to interpret my request to be asking for everything on the city's or Homestead Police Department's Facebook page?
Objection to form.
The fact witness, I am just reporting the facts.
I would like to show you this. This is an email chain related to this request. And here, Patricia Sullivan responds back, Dr. McDonough, the police department has been researching your public records request dated March 5, 2015, read copies of documents and records related to HPD Facebook page. Is the policy of the city to impose a duplication charge for the copying of public records in accordance with the fee schedule enumerated in section 119.074 FS? In addition, the requested records will need to be reviewed for exempt confidential information before release as a public record. The city's policy requires that a deposit be submitted by the requesting party before processing will commence when staff services of the extensive nature inherent in this public records request are presented. Having reviewed the nature and scope of the public records request, it has been determined that the required advance deposit will be $5,159.55 to review 53,000 HPD Facebook records that were identified. The attached invoice details the anticipated time for staff assistance. If the actual cost exceeds the amount of the deposit, you'll remain responsible for the additional request. And I'll scroll to the beginning of my email. You can see on Friday, April the 3rd, 2015, I responded to Patricia. And you can see I have in bold, I did not ask for one single Facebook page. I cite an attorney general opinion, and then we come down. To be absolutely clear, it appears the people at HPD are not fully literate or severely lacking reading comprehension skills. Maybe someone can help them understand my simple request. Below is what I asked for. Who controls, monitors, deletes, etc. the HPD Facebook page? 2, the rules and regulations established for updating and deleting content and controlling access to post, communicate, and or like. 3, under whose orders or direction my posts were deleted and access denied. 4, what is the legal justification for such deletions and restrictions? 5, why have entire posts, not just comments, been taken down? 6, why was the review section taken down? As clearly seen above, I did not ask for one single Facebook post. Further, if they're already public record and publicly disclosed on the Facebook page for the whole world to see, so should not be eligible for redaction as they have already been released to the public. I'll stop reading there. Would you agree that this email clarifies that I'm not asking for posts or comments to the city or the police department's Facebook page, but I'm asking for records related to these questions?
That's what the email says.
Okay. I'm glad we both agree on that. Now, here's a response on June 1st from Mr. Zeskine replying to the email that we just looked over. Good afternoon, Dr. McDonough. You requested without any time or limitation copies of documents and records related to the Homestead Department's Facebook page. The city has approximately 53,000 records responsive to that request, and as a result, we received the attached invoice in response to your request. If you want to narrow the scope of your request for documents, the city will work with you to provide you with a response and a new estimate if a deposit is necessary. We just agreed that I had clarified in the last email that I was not looking for 53,000 Facebook posts, that I was looking for documents related to those 6 questions, correct?
I don't know which
Objection to form.
email came before which email. I don't know.
I'm going in order. So we'll go back down to the last email. This is April 3rd. The email that we read from me is April 3rd, 15. Mr. Zeskine is replying on June 1st, 15. We agree that June 1st is after April, correct?
Yes.
You okay? All right. Just want to make sure that we're on the same page here. And then it says, with respect to the 6 questions raised in your attached request and stated again below, please understand that those questions do not ask for documents. Now, it's understandable that the city does not have to answer questions in a public records request. They're required to produce records. But I was asking for records related to those questions. Would you agree that's how I was wanting my request to be interpreted?
Objection to
don't
form.
know.
How can she testify to your state of mind?
I don't think it is.
Well, I mean, doesn't this email, we agree that this email says that it says what I was looking for, right?
I don't know what you're looking for.
Below is what I asked for. Who controls, monitors, deletes, et cetera, the HPD Facebook page? The rules, regulations established for updating, deleting content, and controlling access to posts. Now, if there was a rule or regulation established for updating and deleting content and controlling access to posts, communicate, or like, that would probably be a public record, correct?
Yes.
Okay. Under whose orders or direction my posts were deleted and access denied. That might not have a record, but that could have a record related to it, correct? Such as if one officer emailed another officer and said, delete
I
these
don't
comments.
know. I don't know. You're asking me to assume something. I don't know.
Okay. All right. So this email that was responded back to me by Mr. Zeskine, had you ever seen this email before, Ms. Sewell?
No,
And so you had nothing to do with this.
no.
This was completely Mr. Zeskine.
Objection to form.
I don't know.
To your understanding, you didn't have any parts to it. It says sent by Mr. Zeskine. Okay. We'll scroll up to the next email. On June 1st, I reply, dear Mr. Zeskine, thank you for your response, regardless as 3 months after I filed my request. Do you think 3 months to respond to a public records request to ask to clarify? Do you think that's a reasonable amount of time, Ms. Sewell?
I don't know.
You don't know. So if somebody files a records request, do you think it's that 3 months is not an unreasonable delay?
Depends on
Objection to form.
how
And that's, you're misrepresenting the dates on the emails. The city responded not 3 months later. Dr. McDonough. You read the initial email from Patty Sullivan with a date that was in April.
Yes. And let's see, we'll go to the request. Oh, sorry, I think it's the wrong one. 5. Here we go. This request is filed March 5, 2015. Are you stating there's not 3 months there between March and June?
I'm stating you're misrepresenting the time of the city's response. You showed an email from Patty Sullivan in April.
Dear Mr. Zeskine, thank you for the response. Regardless that it's 3 months after I filed my request. Are you stating that your response is not 3 months after I filed my request, Mr. Zeskine?
No, your question represented that the city delayed its response 3 months, and you showed an email earlier already in this chain that reflects that the city responded in April. That was my objection.
Okay. You agree that you're responding to me 3 months after my request was filed, correct? All right, I'm just gonna go with that. Thank you for your response, regardless that it's 3 months after I filed my request. Again, there are not 53,000 responsive documents because I did not ask for any such record. If there are no records to be requested in my questions, that is fine. It would be expected there will at least be records for the policy for deleting comments and blocking people from commenting on the official Facebook pages, or who has such authority to make such determinations, i.e. a record log of deletion, etc. As there is no policy, it seems such decisions are just being made arbitrarily on an ad hoc basis to prevent undesirable criticism. Blah, 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 blah. Ms. Sewell, do you interpret this email, or how do I say this? You can't really answer anything about this email because you weren't part of it. Is that correct?
Right.
And it appears that Mr. Zeskine wrote this email. Is that correct?
Objection to form. You wrote this email, Dr. McDonough.
Oh, I wrote this one. I'm sorry. I wrote this to Mr. Zeskine. The one before, this is Mr. Zeskine writing to me. Is that correct? On Monday, June 1st, 2015 at 5:53 p.m., Samuel Zeskine. That was written by Samuel Zeskine, correct?
I don't know.
Okay. But we've already established that you had nothing to do with this email chain, correct?
Right.
Okay. So we looked at my response.
You're frozen.
And here's on June 2nd. Whoops.
No, I'm sorry. That whole question, you were frozen.
Okay, I'll just waive it. This is another response on June 2nd, me sending to Mr.
You're frozen.
Yeah. You're frozen again.
And now here's on June 2nd, Mr. Zeskine responding back to me. Did you have any knowledge of this email where he's responding back to me the second time?
No.
Would you agree if Mr. Zeskine is the one writing the email that he's probably the proper witness?
Objection to form. It's not for the witness to testify as to who another appropriate witness.
Are you going to be available at trial to be to testify as to this email chain, Mr. Zeskine?
Dr. McDonough, I'm not testifying at a trial in this matter. I'm litigation counsel for the city.
Are you claiming that you weren't involved in this public records request?
Dr. McDonough, if you want to file another motion to try to take my deposition like we did in other matters, then you're free to do so. I'm not going to answer questions. I'm not the one who is giving this deposition. I'm here on behalf of the city and the witness as counsel.
Okay. So let's look, I'm here now in this email chain on June 2nd, 2015, responding back to Mr. Zeskine. Mr. Zeskine, there's no misunderstanding. Your clients have continued to violate my First Amendment rights and thwart the requirements of FS 119 in a knowing and willful manner. This is clearly documented. Let's go down a little bit more. I want to show this. I did not ask for nor want a copy of the 53,000 Facebook posts. To your knowledge, was I ever given an updated invoice reflecting the fact that I was not seeking the 53,000 Facebook post?
You're asking me?
To your
I don't
knowledge,
know.
was I ever
I
given
don't
an
know.
updated
No.
invoice?
I don't know.
You don't know. Stop sharing that. Ms. Sewell, do you have any personal knowledge of the time it took to respond to any of the 3 records requests we've discussed?
No.
Ms. Sewell, due to your inconsistent testimony, would you like to change any of your answers, past or present?
Objection to form.
What? I don't know what you're talking about.
Okay, so you're standing by all your testimony. Ms. Sewell, are you aware that the city has repeatedly claimed that I filed my request and lawsuits for an improper purpose?
I don't recall.
Do you believe I filed my request or lawsuits for improper purpose?
I don't know.
So is that a no?
No, she said, I don't know.
I don't know. That's what I said.
Do you have any reason to believe that I would have filed my request for the lawsuits for improper purpose?
I don't know what you're thinking, Mr. McDonough. I don't know.
I'm trying to find out. I mean, the city keeps saying I filed for an improper purpose. I'm asking, you're a fact witness. I'm asking if you have any knowledge of this or if you think that I did such.
I have no
You asked
knowledge,
an answer.
and I don't know.
Okay. Has the city, to your knowledge, ever refused to provide me records unlawfully?
Not that I'm aware of. I don't
Have
know.
you ever done such?
If you're talking about the one incident, again, that was explained in a previous case. It was
Have you
not
ever,
intentional.
I'm not asking about intent, Ms. Sewell.
Well,
Have you ever unlawfully refused to provide records to any others?
no,
You sure about that?
I do not recall.
Ms. Sewell, at the first hearing in this case on July 31st, 2017, you and 3 attorneys for the city were present, correct?
Yes,
Do you remember that hearing, Ms. Sewell?
vaguely.
Vaguely, okay. This records request, or this lawsuit initially had 3 requests in it, 1, 2, and 3. We're now on 4, 5, and 6. Do you recall at that first hearing, the city being ordered to give me records responsive to those requests?
I know that I brought records to the court, but they were
And
not
those-
prepared by us. They were prepared by the departments where they resided. And it was handed to me to bring to you or to the court.
And those records weren't provided to me until after the hearing, is that correct?
I don't know when it was provided to you.
Did you provide, how did you provide those to the city attorneys? The day of the hearing,
Yes,
during the hearing, or right before the hearing?
I don't recall. I remember bringing them. I remember handing them over, but I don't recall when.
Let me share something else again here real quick. Well, that didn't work out right. Let me try this again. Okay. Here is the amended order from that first hearing. You can see a minute order for motion or immediate hearing, refusal to produce public records, hearing date, July 31st, 2017. We've already discussed that you were at that hearing. Content excluded from the original orders underlined below. Appearances, blah, blah, blah. It is hereby ordered and adjudged regarding the November 2nd, 2000 city request, the city will provide within 10 days electronic version of responsive documents. You agree this is an order demanding city provide me records, responsive records, correct?
It appears to be an order.
Pardon?
It appears to be an order.
Okay. Regarding the June 9th, 2017 request, the city has provided hard copies of the responsive documents. The June 9th requests were the documents that you brought to court with you, and they were provided to me after the hearing was over.
I don't know.
Objection to form.
I'm informing you that they were.
Are you testifying, Dr. McDonough?
I'm stating they were. I'll testify if you want to. Are you going to lie and say you didn't hand them to me, or that Mandel didn't hand them to me? They were given to me after court. We got it all on video, so no sense in lying. Regarding the June 5th, 2016 request, plaintiff stipulated that he's received documents, but reserves the ability to challenge the cost estimate at future proceedings. So this third request on June 5th, I waived the city having to produce the records from those days. But the other two requests, the city was ordered to provide them to me at the hearing or after the hearing.
Is there a question pending?
Yes, I do, if you would let me get there. Ms. Sewell, are you aware that producing records on the eve of trial or after trial is considered to be an unlawful refusal?
Objection to form calls for a legal conclusion. Witness is here to testify about facts, which she did. She's given you the date that the records were brought. Now you're asking for a legal conclusion, which the witness will not be testifying to.
Okay. Okay, well, let me just make sure all right, can you still see the order here, Ms. Sewell?
No, I see you.
You see me? Okay. What's going on? I must have hit a wrong button. Let me see if I can bring this back up again real quick.
Hungry.
Okay. Let's look at the first part of this. Regarding the November 2nd, 2016 request, the city will provide within 10 days electronic versions of the responsive documents. We've agreed that this hearing, which this order came from, occurred on July 31st, 2017, correct?
I don't recall.
Well, the hearing date, July 31st, 2017.
Okay.
Do you have any reason to doubt that it wasn't July 31st, 2017?
No.
And you agree that you were at the hearing, correct?
Yes.
Okay. November 2nd, 2016 request. Would you agree that there is more than 8 months between November 2nd, 16 and July 31st, 17?
Dr. McDonough, we've given you a little bit of leeway here, but now you're going back to requests, claims against which have already been dismissed from this lawsuit, which the court agreed that you were not allowed to get into. So I've given you a little bit of leeway to talk about the hearing, but I think we're going outside that now.
Well,
these claims related to these
my other claims are done.
I shall finish my objection. The claims relating to these requests have been dismissed. The only claims remaining in this lawsuit are claims regarding requests 4-1, 5, and 6, and any discussion regarding prior requests of which claims relating to them have already been dismissed are not to be covered in this deposition. That the judge ruled on that.
Okay, I just want
We're
to
not,
make clear
we're
because
not relitigating those issues.
no, I'm not trying to relitigate those issues, and I'm not trying to relitigate the declarations and the injunctions I was asking for. However, regardless of that, is it your position that me being provided records at the trial means that I don't get my cost for filing fees? Because that seems to be your argument, Mr. Zeskine. That's why I'm asking. I'm just trying to figure out here.
You can cover that in a motion for costs at the conclusion of the litigation.
It's funny that you seem to think that it's premature to talk about this now when you continue to make arguments for cost in the middle of litigation. And you lie, for the record. I just want to make very clear on the record that you have knowingly filed false documents in this case particularly. And you don't deny that, do you?
Dr. McDonough, I'm not going to engage in your
You cannot engage, and we'll just assume that you agree that you lied. If you can say you didn't lie and file false documents, that's real easy.
I'll say I don't agree with you.
Okay. Do you have any evidence that shows that I filed for improper purpose, or that I stated that I was going to write a book to teach people how to harass government entities with public records requests?
Dr. McDonough, I'm not the one whose deposition you're taking.
I know.
If you have any more questions
You're a
of
liar,
Ms. Sewell,
sir. You lie.
Dr. McDonough, if you have any more questions of the witness, you can ask them. Otherwise, let's conclude this deposition.
Ms. Sewell, does your hatred and animosity for me affect how my records are processed?
No,
Objection to
Mr.
form.
McDonough, I have no animosity or hatred towards you. As a matter of fact, I do try to get your records from the police department as quickly as I can. And I have staff that can witness to that. So no, I have no animosity or any kind of hatred towards you.
You have no animosity or hatred towards me, but you stated that I was a mean person. You
And
stated
I
that I
stated
insult
that
you.
you're not.
Let me finish. I'm not finished my question.
Oh, okay.
You've stated that I was a mean person. You have stated that I've insulted you. You stated that I've been aggressive with you. You stated that I've yelled at you. And you stated that all this makes you have great fear for your life, leading you to file a police report. But you have no animosity towards me? Is that?
You don't file a
Objection to
police
form.
report because you have animosity. You file a police report to document what's happening.
Have you ever filed a police report on anyone else who questioned a public records request?
I can't recall.
Have you ever filed any other police reports against me?
I don't think so. I can't recall, but I don't
That's
think
something
so.
you would think you would recall, right? If you had?
I don't think so, Mr. McDonough.
You can't recall if you filed other ones, but you're going to say that you don't. I'm kind of confused here, Ms. Sewell.
Objection.
Listen, I said I don't recall, and that's what I'm going to stick by. Okay?
Okay.
Mhm.
And you don't recall if you filed more than one police report, but you know you haven't filed a police report against other people. Is that correct? I don't want to
Objection. That's not what she stated.
Oh my God. I don't recall. I don't recall. I don't recall. I don't know how to say that. I don't recall. I don't remember. Would that help? I'm not speaking another language. I'm speaking English.
I'm trying to figure out why I get singled out to have a police report filed against me.
We went through
Objection
that before.
Objection to form.
I'm sorry, did I hear you? Was that Ms. Sewell?
I said, I've already answered your question before.
Have I ever threatened you, Ms. Sewell?
What does this have to do with public records, Mr. McDonough? You've yelled at me.
When did I yell at you?
Insulted me. I'm not going to go back through this with you. I've already
There's a
answered.
bit that's been asked and answered.
Yes, I'm not going through that again.
Did you file the police report against me completely on your own volition?
It was filed because my staff and I felt threatened.
Your staff felt threatened.
My staff and I, as it says in the report, felt threatened.
Can you tell me who of your staff felt threatened?
The staff is no longer here. I told you that earlier. I've already answered those questions, Mr. McDonough. I am not going through that again. So you can ask as many questions about that as you want. I've already answered that.
So you're refusing to answer.
I answered you.
Objection. She told you she already answered those questions. You've covered this. You asked her about the staff. You asked her all these questions previously at the outset of this deposition, and she's answered them. You're revisiting the same
Last
question.
Can you tell me who of your staff felt threatened?
I'm sorry, you were breaking up. Could you say that again, Sylvia?
Can you tell me who of your staff felt threatened?
Okay. I had not asked you that earlier, Ms. Sewell. That's a new question.
I did, you did, and I said the staff is no longer here. I did.
And she gave you the names of the staff earlier also.
Yes, I did.
You gave me the name of the staff, but you had never earlier said that. It was a different question.
Well, this is the same
Miss-
answer for this question.
Ms. Sewell, is there any reason that you're having such difficulty answering my questions today?
No, Mr. McDonough. When I don't recall, I say I don't recall. When I don't know, I say I don't know. Okay?
Okay. Have you taken any alcohol or drugs today, Ms. Sewell?
No,
Were you taking any alcohol or drugs at the time these records requests were filed?
no, I don't drink. And I don't use drugs.
Okay. Have I ever attacked your family, Ms. Sewell?
You really don't want to go there, Dr. McDonough, please. You don't.
Dr. McDonough, to be clear, are you asking questions about her family, which is actually
No, I'm
expressly
asking
Questions
prohibited?
about her family.
This
I'm
has
asking if
become
I've ever attacked
personal.
her family.
This has become personal, Dr. McDonough, and at this point, I am not going to answer any more of your questions if they're going to continue on this personal line. No. This is my job. This is my profession. I do not behave I do not conduct myself and bring personal issues to my job. And I would appreciate if you don't do the same, because you have.
Is that
Dr.
a no
McDonough,
on-
I'll-
is that a no on
Dr. McDonough, I'll
attack
remind
your family?
Dr. McDonough, I'll remind you that the order says by agreement, you agreed on the record in front of the judge.
I'm not asking.
Plaintiff shall not
I'm
question the
asking about
witness
her
regarding her.
family's personal matters.
Plaintiff shall not question the
What's that
witness regarding
family?
her personal life or family matters. You just asked her about her family.
I asked her if I had attacked her family, not anything about her personal family matters and what they do. I don't care what they do. I want to know, have I ever attacked your family? Because it seems that you say that I have. And if
Dr. McDonough, this is
family-
this is precisely what's prohibited by the order. We'll stop the deposition now.
This is it.
We'll stop the deposition now. This is precisely what's prohibited by the order. You are not allowed to, by agreement, you told the judge that you were not going to get into
I
questions
did
about
not
her
ask
family.
a
Now
question
you're
about
asking
her
questions
family.
about her
I
family.
asked if I had attacked her family.
You're
That's
asking
separate.
questions about her family.
Okay. I disagree. That's about her family. It's not a family matter. In her
is.
personal family
It
matter.
It is.
It is.
It is. Yes.
So-
Anything related to her
family.
anything, Dr. McDonough, anything at this point related to her family is a family matter. They don't work for the city. They are not part of her clerk responsibilities. Any discussion relating to her family relates to her family. Any discussion between you and a member of her family is something regarding her family. So this is outside the scope
Okay.
of what the
Okay.
order
All right.
allows.
Okay.
We're
That's
not going down this road. If you ask
That's
that
fine.
question again, we'll end it.
All right, that's fine. Ms. Sewell, have you ever asked anybody to attack me or write anything negative to me about me on my page?
No,
Have you ever told anybody to not write about me on my page?
I don't know. I don't think so. I've
Have you ever
never
told
had
anybody to stop writing about me on my page?
I don't recall. I don't know.
You don't recall? Okay. All right, I have no further questions. Celia, I'll order the transcript. And are we going to file and cooperate with scheduling the deposition for the other case? Or are we going to make me take court action to get that as well?
The witness will read. I don't know what other case you're referring to. If you're referring to the other case where there's a pending motion for protective order that's set for hearing that needs to take place before you take the deposition, then we'll.
That's one case. There's two other cases we need to depose her in. One we haven't deposed her in yet, and one we need to finish deposing her in.
Which case are you referring to?
Give me just a second.
She's been concluded. She was concluded and your mandamus action.
The 1906-869 never concluded. You said you were going to get back with me. Both of y'all agreed to get back with me in a week. I sent you several emails over the course of several months and you refused to.
No, you've deposed her several times, Dr. McDonough. Yeah, well, this is off the record. This is off the record. Yeah.
We didn't finish that deposition. I have the transcript. We agreed to let me read